I learned the unteachable lesson. John, this is it. That's a trap. That's one of the biggest traps of life.
That ever sobering for me personally? 'Cause
Yeah, good question. I think I was probably patient zero, maybe. I learned the unteachable lesson that money, fame, fortune, it doesn't actually make you happy.
did it happen to
Um,
you? Did you get rich and
I
famous for
didn't
some reason?
sell. I did. I didn't sell a company, but I did find myself in a position where I had enough money and I had a lot of time, and I went through some major transitions in life. Um, I mean, that's probably a whole other podcast, but I did find myself in a position where I had achieved the dream, I had achieved the vision, and then yeah, I just went into an existential crisis. What now? So I think that I learned the unteachable lesson first. Success is not dirty. It's the story that you have around it. If you're going through life thinking, when I get this, when I'm doing this, that's where you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
What do people have to get prepared for in advance? Let's imagine I'm an entrepreneur. I've had this business for 20 years and I've lived well along the way, but not something spectacular. And I'm about to get a check for $10 million. All my fears are going to go away, and I'm excited to cash that check. What am I missing? What am I setting myself up for? What show me how the movie ends.
If you are always thinking that once I sell the company, once I have this money, then I'll sort myself out, that's a trap. That's one of the biggest traps of life. It's not going to work like that. Just have that awareness that what your imagination has created for you, when the deal is done, there's going to be a big anticlimax. If you're using language that puts your fulfillment, happiness in the future, that's the red flag.
What other red flags are there? I love this because it's very tangible, it's tactical, it's actionable, which is kind of
Yeah.
what
And we hear it all the
what I
time. Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah,
hear it
yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the because it's a good boy, is that ever sobering for me personally, because I do that all the time. What
Your
other red flags are there?
health, you know, are you eating unhealthily? Are you drinking too much? Are you having health problems? Our body is a great communicator to us. If things are not aligned, our body will let us know. My body let me know when I was on that train, when I was on the when I train. My body was one of the first things to let me know. So health is the other red flag. Um, and also your ability to be bored. Can you, if you're thinking I'm just gonna, go to the tropics and sit on the beach. I mean, to be fair, most successful entrepreneurs know that they struggle with that because they have holidays with their families and it's like the worst time ever. But yeah, like, the other red flag is like, can you be bored? Just go and test out your tolerance for boredom.
I mean, the phones must be our worst enemy in this regard, because every waking moment is filled. If you're bored for even a nanosecond, there's always a feed you can update, and
Yeah.
it must be crushingly difficult for people like you to get people to marinate in their boredom for even 5 minutes, let alone hours,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you see, we have 5 biological sort of hardwiring in the non-conscious brain. And this is where, for me, like coming back to levels of mind is where I come back to if I'm working with somebody, because I know how they're operating and what drivers come from where. So we're hardwired with these 5 biological drives. And this is once you become aware of those, I mean, this is what the phones have hijacked. This is what has been commercialized. They're a complex set of like physiological and psychological drivers. So we have the low tolerance for ambiguity. So we have a low tolerance for the unknown. We're prediction machines. We have a cognitive bias that always wants to be right. We have this low tolerance for discomfort, and we have perceptual dissatisfaction. I mean, this perceptual dissatisfaction means we will never be happy. Accept it. That's not how we're wired. And then we have a negative thinking bias. So all of these things, gadgets, phones,
Social media feeds.
social media feeds, news, food, they've all used those 5 biological complexes or wiring to constantly hijack us. And it's easy because we're wired on a non-conscious level that we're not aware of. And those we can't really change because they're very strong in us because they served our ancestors well. The ancestors that had that biological wiring that really, really worked, they survived. They pass it on. We are them. First of all, it's awareness and then it's understanding, and then it's intention. It's an acceptance, radical acceptance of I will never be happy. This is how I'm wired, and actually, this is one of my drivers. Let's be grateful for that. So it really is awareness, acceptance, intention. And you'll be amazed how that transforms a person, because we're always looking for permission slips. We're always looking for reasons why we are the way we are. And then once you have that, you can go, okay, that's why I do that. That's why I'm like this. So yeah, that's what we did. And then with him, I did work with him at the subconscious level quite a lot, because he did require that reprogramming, that rewiring, because he grew up in a very sort of pressurized environment to achieve. So that's how he got love. And so, yeah, I rewired, because when I can recognize, we've got some very deep, well-formed like processes and procedures in place at that subconscious level that you're not aware of. Reprogramming is required. Ask yourself that question, what do I want? And then take a look at what your values are, because this is where if you are living your life aligned with your values. So let's say we have a few values. My values, for example, would be spending time with my family, my animals, my friends, having lots of adventure, spending time in nature, and having a creative outlet, and having interesting, deep conversations with people. That's kind of my top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, so let's say you've established your values, and that's not easy for most people. There's work involved in establishing your values. And then you look at how you're living your life. Those 5 values, where am I living those every day? Oh, I don't really see my family. Yeah, don't spend that much time in nature. No, I'm
But
behind.
Joe, I think most people would say, my listeners would say, oh, yeah, those are my values. I want to travel. I want to be in great shape. I want to be with my family. And I'm going to do all that stuff. I just got to sell this damn business. I got to get rid of this thing. And that's going to enable me to live my true set of values.
Yeah. So that's the red flag. We've already got a when I. So then what I would want to be doing is bring everyone back to today. What are you doing today? And very often with my clients, I will say, John, this is it. Like, what you are doing today is your life. This, when I have this, when I'm there, when this is finished, that's in your imagination. And our imagination is limitless. We can imagine flying, but we're a limited human being. It's not going to live up to that. So I bring people back to today. What would all these things you've just told me that you're going to do when you sell your business, what of those can you do today? And then you often find them going, and that really slows people down because they're like, oh, okay, yeah, today I'm not living in my imagination, which is when I've got my 10 million from my company. Today, well, I could go and have that coffee on the balcony. Yeah, I could go and have that coffee on the balcony. Okay, let's make that a priority today. So it's really about slowing people down and saying, this is it. This is your life. It's not there.
So let's talk about that. Imagine we're now talking to someone who has sold their business,
Yeah,
and they pop the champagne and they
yeah,
watch the deposit go into their account and they bought the
yeah,
Tesla or whatever the trophy that
yeah,
they wanted was, and they're starting to feel that sense of drop in mood that
yeah,
often follows when
yeah.
that purpose, that drive is starting to fade. Walk me through your formula, your prescription for someone like that.
Yeah. So the first thing that just came to mind as you were saying that is like, okay, now they're living the good life, right? Now they're living the good life. And the truth is, the good life is a bit boring, especially for high achievers. You know, how long can you really sit on your balcony with a cup of coffee? You know, how long can you really sit on the beach watching the sea? For us, not even 5 minutes. We're wanting to do something else. It's about, again, awareness. A good life is boring. Can we increase our tolerance for boredom? And that
Are
sounds
you
like a fun
suggesting that's a
thing.
strategy that
Yeah,
people
I
should
am.
increase their tolerance for boredom? Really?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we have no tolerance for boredom anymore. Also increasing your tolerance for discomfort. Boredom is uncomfortable. So they're two of the big things that I do with high achievers. It's like, let's practice being really, really bored, and let's get really uncomfortable without reaching for something, without striving for something, without checking something, without
Sounds
doing
horrible.
something.
It sounds
That's
horrible.
life. Yeah, and that's when you open the door to what life wants to do through you. Yeah.
And what you're asking them to do is say, no, like
This
today
is it.
this is it.
This
Yeah.
is it. And also that was the other thing that I remember, it, you know, the red flag is the ego. And I know a lot of people villainize the ego. I don't villainize the ego. I I think that, you know, striving, success, all this motivation for having the best life can live alongside um, slowing down, and, you know, the peace and the joy and the happiness. They can
But
live
aren't they
alongside.
opposites of each other in a way? Because in a way, the drive to achieve
Mm.
is driven from some scarcity mindset, right? That's
They're not
it's
they're not opposite. They're different levels. So the way that I work is I look at the different levels of mind. So the ego is a construct that we have built. It's what we think we are. It's myself that I think I am. It's the stories, it's the experience, it's the identity. And it's an incredible fire starter. It's an incredible driver. And we can use that. You know, we can ride with that. But then there's another self. There's our true self. There's our deeper, non-conscious um, self that also wants to come and play whilst we're here as human beings. And if you're constantly following the ego self all the time, you really miss out on what that fundamental true self wants to do through you and bring to your life.
you figure
Which,
that stuff out, especially for someone who's a 20
hmm,
year
Mm,
driver, right? And
yeah.
they've lived in this superficial, what I think you called the conscious state, right? Of
Yeah.
like ego gratification, power,
Yeah.
success,
Yeah.
achievement. It's as a 50 whatever year old, like that's a hard drug to get off.
Yeah. And you don't really have to get off it completely. Again, it comes down to, are you happy with your life? I often leverage the work of Carl Jung, who's the greatest, probably the greatest psychologist of all time. And he speaks of life having two halves. So the first half of our life, and in his day, kind of life was probably about 60 or 70 years old. So the first half of life was like 35 to 40, maybe 35 years. And this is when nature, like life, gives us the drive to carve out our place in life, to earn respect of our peers, to have a family, to create wealth. But then in the second half of life, what life wants to do through us is something different, to slow down, to create, to expand, to express. We've all got that a bit. We're all different. We are all unique. We follow the same patterns, but we're all unique. And what life wants from us is to, yeah, I come back to that: expand, create, express. So I would bet that if I can get under the hood of everyone, there will be a desire to create, expand, and express something. And it's often my job to uncover what is that something.